Do you know that your daily habits might be damaging your brain? Even the small things like your sleeping patterns or stress. Do you know why? It may sound like a stretch, but it's true. Most people go through life without thinking about these things, causing risks for mental illness and cognitive impairment. In this video, we're going to go over 10 habits that damage your brain. We'll also provide tips to help eliminate these habits to live a better and healthier life. Let's start with habit number 1, having a bad sleep schedule. Having a bad sleep schedule is so common, some people don't think about it. Some may even brag about their lack of sleep, especially the youth. But lack of sleep can cause your cognitive function to decline, mainly when you're sleep deprived. You may question what that means for you, especially because you will hear it often in this video. Cognitive function simply is one's ability to think. This affects their memorization, attention, language, and executive function. In summary, sleep deprivation limits your ability to think as well as your reaction time. The best prevention for sleep deprivation is to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. That can sound easier than actually is. Some tips to do so would be to go to sleep at the same time every night, while waking up at the same time, and avoid using electronic devices before bed. Another is to limit caffeine intake, which we'll talk more about in our next habit. Number 2, excessive caffeine intake. Caffeine is generally safe in small amounts, but once you're consuming more than 400 milligrams a day, it can be an issue. When you consume caffeine too frequently and in large amounts, caffeine can cause insomnia. This leads us back to the symptoms of our first habit. Then, to combat the fatigue you're feeling, you may go back to caffeine. It turns into a cycle that feels impossible to break. We assure you that this is temporary. The best way to fix this is just to suffer the effects of tiredness for a couple of days while you reduce your caffeine intake to a healthy amount. Our next habit also comes with your caffeine addiction. Number 3, having too much sugar. We all know our body needs some sugar to function, but too much can be an issue. Of course, some sweets every once in a while won't suddenly bring you down to an IQ of 27. But if you're drinking soda all the time, especially without water, it can cause brain atrophy. This simply is your brain shrinking. The solution to such a problem can seem simple and is for many, but sugar can turn into an addiction, especially if you're having it with caffeinated drinks. For some people, the solution is to put soda down and avoid drinking it if possible. For others, their issue can lie in stress eating sugary foods. Whatever your problem is, it can be treated. If you're having issues with cravings, then completely bringing sugar out of your diet may not be the answer. Your solution could be simply reducing it over time to a healthy amount. Our next sign is another hard-to-kick addiction. Number 4, smoking. Smoking is another habit that people underestimate the harm of. When we're in school, we're taught that smoking affects people's lungs and hearts, but we have to do a little research to understand how it affects us in other ways. Cognitive function is the first way. People who smoke tend to have worse reaction times than people who don't. Another issue comes into place during your golden years, where you're more likely to develop dementia or see. The best and easiest way to avoid this would be to avoid smoking in the first place, but the second would be to quit now. The longer you smoke, the more damage it does, and the harder it is to quit. It can also damage your teeth, which leads us to our next habit. Number 5, bad oral hygiene. Taking care of your teeth is also very important for your brain health. This is likely due to the bacteria that forms in your mouth when plaque builds up. It's been observed that people with missing teeth due to bad hygiene also have memory issues and problems balancing, which is especially evident when compared to a healthy person of similar age. If you're one of the people born with naturally beautiful teeth, you may just have to listen to your dentist's rules. Brush twice a day, floss, and use mouthwash. If you weren't, you might have to talk to a medical professional to see what extra steps you should take. Our next habit can also affect dental health. Number 6, abusing drugs and alcohol. Drinking or doing drugs very occasionally will most likely only cause short-term effects on the brain. But keep in mind, when you abuse either, you might not be that lucky. The withdrawals that come once you give up drugs or alcohol can cause seizures. If this happens once, it may only require hospitalization. In the chance that it happens back-to-back or for more than 5 minutes, it could cause permanent brain damage. This may also be an issue if you seize while standing and fall down. The easiest way to avoid alcohol withdrawal is to manage your intake at the very start, but if you've realized you may have an addiction, you may need to get rehabilitation, and make sure to take care of your body while doing so. Number 7, not enough exercise. In the modern world, especially in countries like the US or UK, exercise is generally optional. You may choose to walk as a hobby, but most people don't unless it's required of them. This is especially problematic if you don't do anything else to keep active. Exercise improves blood flow to the brain, therefore improves brain function as well. It's recommended to have at least an hour of exercise a day minimum to keep your brain, heart, and body healthy. Like most things, you can't suddenly expect yourself to suddenly be able to spend hours at a time in the gym. Not that you even need to, but you should be able to slowly work up to that point if it's what you're aiming for. Then there's also another type of exercise you need. Number 8. Not exercising your brain. Just like your body, your brain is a muscle, and as such, you have to exercise it. Physically exercising may be good for your brain, but you also have to mentally exercise it. This means reading, playing word games, practicing math, and studying in general. Spending 20 to 30 minutes a day should be enough to keep your brain strong. Doing so can greatly decrease your chance of developing dementia and Alzheimer's in the future, so you should consider starting this if you haven't already. Number 9. Social isolation. People often underestimate the effects of socialization as a human being. We, even people who aren't considered social, need it. People who have been isolated from society often say that they had issues thinking logically. Social isolation is thought to be linked to cognitive decline and may cause or worsen depression. This was an issue especially during COVID-19, where some people reported not seeing anyone outside of their households for a year or more. So even if you're a loner, you should take some time to go somewhere. Remember, even small things like ordering food at a cafe counts as human interaction. It also helps manage stress, which leads to our next one. Number 10. Stressful activities. Stress is generally unavoidable in daily life, but when it becomes chronic, it can affect your brain for the worst. When consistent, it can kill brain cells and shrink the part of the brain that affects learning and memory, called the prefrontal cortex. While doing this, it also makes the amygdala larger. This means that you'll be more receptive to stress. While doing this, it also affects the rest of your body, causing high blood pressure and increased risk of heart disease. This doesn't mean that it's permanent. The brain and body can recover as long as you give it the right conditions. This means practicing stress relief techniques and doing things that help take your mind off of your stressors. You might be doing these things every day without much thought about it, but now you know the effect they have on your brain. We hope this video helped you pinpoint your bad habits so you can improve your brain function. If you've been doing these things, please comment below about how you managed to kick them and live healthier, and consider to subscribe and press that like button so more people can find it, and you may want to check out the video showing up on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.